Hello, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to another video. A little bit different today. Myself, Sam and Charlie are going to be talking about a phone call that took place with Chris Wilder. Charlie spoke to the man himself after the Luton defeat at the weekend. Obviously, a really difficult day to be a Watford fan and very difficult for Chris, who I thought articulated his thoughts really well in the media. And I think that the reaction from Watford fans said it all. Look, Charlie, we'll get straight into it. Do you just want to maybe give a bit of context to people who don't already know about your relationship with Chris, how it came about, and yeah, just take it from there, really?
Yeah, it started, I think, 2020 when he was Sheffield United manager. I was working with a company called the Sack Race, and we awarded him our manager of the decade. So Sheffield United are really good. We got to go in there and did a 40-minute long interview with him. He was really great with his time, stopped a press conference for it. So that was the first time we met him. I met him, and then in December got invited to speak on behalf of Watford fans for a Sky Bet piece where Chris Wilder was there after Slav just came in. So we met again there and kind of stayed in touch because we wanted to get him on the tactics board for the Coach's Voice where I'm currently working. So that's how our kind of relationship started. And then obviously when he got the Watford job, I just sent him a message at the time saying, welcome to the best club in the world. Anything you need, just give me a shout. He gave me a ring after that and we just spoke about a few things, but mainly about where he's staying and stuff like that. And I haven't really spoke to him since, to be honest. But then I just thought I'd give him a message after the Luton game, just really because I know he's not on social media or anything, but I just wanted to give him a message and kind of say, let him know that his comments went quite a long way with the fans, or all the fans I've spoke to anyway, and received quite well, and wish him the best of luck for the rest of the season. So yeah, that's where it was.
Sure. I mean, moving on to kind of the conversation you had with him. So you dropped him a message after the Luton game, echoed the thoughts that we all had as Watford fans. I think, the majority that I saw were really complimentary about what Chris said. And I think for him to acknowledge what I think a lot of fans have been feeling and thinking at that moment, in a very difficult moment as well for the club, went a long way. So I know you messaged him about that and what came about from that message.
Yeah, so he rang me after that, and we had a chat about the game, and nothing that he hasn't already said in the press conference. And then I was kind of just asking him, "Are you enjoying it?" Obviously, he's kind of away from his family and that. And I was really surprised with kind of what he came back with. He said he's enjoying it, and he said that he would want to stay on next season as Watford manager, which really surprised me. I've been on this channel before saying I don't think he'd want to keep it with the hierarchy and stuff like that. He said despite results, he's really been enjoying it. He said the infrastructure is great, training facilities. He said he's loved the staff, working with the staff and everything. And he said, yeah, there are obviously important factors in terms of if it were to happen contractually, he would want that guarantee of one season at least. We don't know how realistic that is. He also said he'd kind of want those reassurances, which I was really, really kind of shocked about. And the reason why we're kind of doing this video is something that he said, feel free to get the message out. I think I'm just surprised about his desire to want to be the Watford manager, to want to stay at the club. Do I think it will happen? Probably not. But I think as a starting point, it's interesting that he's attracted to us. And then I kind of asked about the hierarchy, and he kind of said Gino's left him to it. He said Scott's been really positive, Scott Duxbury, been really encouraging, really positive. And he said his ideas kind of do align with Ben Manga, and they've got on when it comes to the football side of things. So kind of a lot of positives there. He did say, look, he knows, and he said it about the cultural reset. He said it would need a squad overhaul. But he said he'd be confident that he could bring in some quality championship players to help us be successful. So I was just surprised. Obviously, mentioned that he wanted to let people know, but I don't know what your guys' reaction to that is initially.
Sam, do you know what? I'll throw it over to you, mate. Just your reaction to what Charlie said there. So we kind of got the heads up from Charlie that, just recently that this had taken place. And I think when Charlie just told us then, I mean, I'm surprised that Chris is open to it on the one hand. On the other hand, from my perspective, I'm thinking, you know what, it's a job at a club which he has mentioned has the facilities, etc., has the access to some players that other championship teams rather don't have. You then look at maybe the potential that he's seeing that other head coaches have obviously tried and failed, but he might think, you know what, I've got what it takes to really reset the culture here. I think he'd argue he did that at Sheffield United, so he's got a track record of doing that before. I guess what I wanted to ask you, Sam, was just your initial reaction, because I feel like it works both ways. Whilst I can understand Charlie's surprise in him saying that, I can also see the positives to him wanting to stay. So where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I think for me, it's over to you, Gino Pozzo, because no doubt Chris will be saying the same thing to the hierarchy that he said to Charlie the other day. And it's a question now as to whether Gino will, A, want to commit to a long season, a one-season plan, which obviously we know he doesn't do. And secondly, whether he'd want to recruit according to how Chris Wilder wants him to. It's interesting that Chris said that the squad needs an overhaul, and he was so open about that. I mean, we can all see that as supporters anyway. And we know there'll be players who will go at the end of the season because of loans expiring and because we're able to make money off them. But it's going to be a case of, are we able to support Chris Wilder with players who fit into the three at the back system that he likes to play with, the overlapping centre-backs, a bit like we saw at Sheffield United and to an extent at Middlesbrough and the clubs all before that. So it's over to you, Gino Pozzo, and I'll be surprised if it does happen, if he does end up staying. But I am still encouraged by it, and I like Chris Wilder, and I'd be delighted if he does stay.
I think whatever happens, I don't know what you think, lads, but I think whatever happens, people will remember what he said after the game on Saturday, because I think we were all feeling it. We all have said it. And he's one of the managers who's actually broken the mold. Maybe it's because he's on that short-term deal. He's got nothing to lose, and he thought, "Why not? I might as well say it." But I think there was an element actually of him feeling what we were feeling on Saturday, which is pretty embarrassed by what we saw. So, Charlie, just looking ahead, does that change the picture for him? Do you think the fact that he's open to staying, how much do you think that actually changes? You know, going into the last few games of the season, because it's really unlikely we're going to get playoffs, if we're honest. I think he even knows that it's going to be unlikely. If we sneak it, it will be unbelievable. We're not going to go down. We're kind of floating in and around the mid-table. So what does this, now you know that, as a fan, what does this change going into games?
It's interesting about the playoffs. I mean, when I sent the original message, I tried to be positive because I didn't want him to feel any worse than he probably did after that defeat. And we did say, look, none of the teams above us won. There's 6 points. And he did show some optimism, which it might be realistic, but I'm just surprised he's in that positive mindset about everything, really. And a couple of other bits he mentioned were, he mentioned about the youth setup. He said he went to see the under-21s, has been impressed by them, those players. It'd be interesting to see if he's going to play any of those in the upcoming games. And he's also mentioned about Graham Taylor's values on the phone, and I think he did before the derby as well. And we're in this spot where it's like, oh, we don't want to harp on about the past and that. But I think Watford Football Club is Graham Taylor is Watford Football Club, and the fact that he's recognised that a couple of times again has encouraged me. Like I said earlier, I was just surprised with that, but I just can't see it happening. It's interesting saying those relationships and the hierarchy have been great with them, and I think the consensus from the fans is like we would like to see someone like Chris, who's come in and said, though, stay on. Just looking at the evidence of the hierarchy, do we think that's going to happen? Probably not. But I'm just taking it as a positive that, one, he hasn't hated all of his time here. And I don't know, who knows what's going to happen in these final few games. But I've just taken it as a positive, really, trying to take it as a positive. Because when that phone rang, I didn't know what he was going to say, but I was quite pleasantly surprised about how positive it was.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing that struck with me, Sam, just kind of wrapping up on this, is I think that already he's identified the fan consensus, number one's positive in 4 games that he's been here, but also the fact that he's recognised that this squad needs a real refresh in the summer. I mean, it doesn't really matter whether he's here or someone else in that respect. I think we've all agreed and we're on the same page that this squad needs refreshing. So from now until the end of the season, how would you like Chris Wilder to play this? Obviously, his contract's coming to an end as it stands this season. He's just, as stated, is keen to stay on. How would you, as a fan, like to see him play these last few games? Because, as we mentioned, the situation with Watford at the moment is, we are kind of just sailing towards nothing really this season.
Yeah, I think there's nothing to lose. I think I'd want to see. I mean, I'm not sure whether it's him tactically or whether it's the players themselves, but I want to see Watford trying to be a bit more brave in the last few games, attack teams a bit more. We had an XG of something like 0.06 against Luton, and I want to see us try and get shots off, attack the opposition goal, particularly at Vicarage Road. And with 2 huge games coming up over Easter weekend, who knows? We win those 2 games. I look above us, Millwall are stuttering a bit. Blackburn, you sometimes don't really know what you're going to get from them. Obviously, we'd also be relying on the likes of Coventry dropping points that we're playing against them and other teams as well. So look, all we can do is, as supporters, I believe, as difficult as it is, because the players are infuriating to watch sometimes, to be honest with you, we have to keep believing while it's still possible that maybe we could sneak a playoff place and go from there. But I think it's equally down to the likes of Chris Wilder and the players to show some bravery in games and give the fans something to get behind.
Yeah, I'd like to see him show some of the players some of those consequences. Like we've mentioned young players, Adrian Blake we've talked about, who top clubs are interested in. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's on the bench, or can we give him some minutes? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Go on, Sam.
We got Toby Adeyemo. The news came out today as well, I think, from Adam Leventhal at The Athletic, that I think he's close to signing his first senior contract as well. Be good to see him involved as well. To be honest with you, what I'd like to see, and this might sound extreme, but after that Luton game, play the under-21s. I genuinely would. It's not going to happen, because there is still a chance we get playoffs, but at that moment where it does become impossible mathematically, just play the under-21s and show these players that no, you can't get away with it every single week. And as you say, Charlie, show them the consequences.
I think from my point of view, just echoing what the lad said there, I mean, one way in which you would be able to show the consequences is by backing Wilder, I think. To reiterate, he's shown his desire to us that he wants to stay. I think if you and you always have to caveat with Watford and Gino Pozzo that you don't think it's going to happen, but I think the ultimate consequence and kind of really stamping that authority and giving that manager, and one step we mentioned the 5-year plan was giving that manager more control, is by giving him that contract before the end of the season, because we mentioned it in previous videos. There's not many better managers in the league. There's not many better managers, as we mentioned before, of actually overseeing a reset. There's also not many better British managers who know the Championship, who play a system that Ben Manga, who has been brought in, replicates. We mentioned the 3-4-1-2 that Manga played at Frankfurt, the 3 at the back that Chris plays. I think there's a lot of alignment there and what we would want to see happen and who Chris is as a manager. So I would be really keen for him to stay on. I can see why he would want to stay on, and I can see both sides of it. Whilst I was surprised when you told me, Charlie, I can see both sides to it. But I genuinely believe, just echoing what you said there, Sam, the way in which we go about this is actually just laying the marker down, giving him that deal that he wants, and then moving forward. Because then at least at this point, you can go, these are the players he wants to keep, these are the players he wants to sell. We move on. Whether we see that happen, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm certainly someone who would advocate him staying on, and the way we actually move this culture on is by giving a man like him the authority to do that. So we'll have to wait and see. But that's kind of all the news from WD18 on that. Big shout out to Charlie for speaking to Chris and getting that insight. And hopefully you guys found it informative on how the current head coach is feeling at the moment. So the top line is he would like to be here next season at Watford Football Club. So, and obviously there's a few extra bits in that as well. But make sure you do leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to WD18. Make sure you check out more of our content on socials at WD18 fans. If you want to relive the Luton defeat, which I'm sure you don't, but we did go into quite a lot of depth on it. Then we did a stream yesterday with Dave Cameron Walker from The Athletic. Make sure you do go and check that out, and we'll see you in the next one. Up the Hornets.